Welcome. In this segment, we're going to talk about the semicolon. Semicolons are not just for decoration. They have a specific use in your sentences. For example, one use is to link two independent clauses. By independent clauses, we mean two complete sentences, each of which could stand alone. For example, the weather is unpredictable. Today it snowed, rained, and then snowed again, kind of like weather in Syracuse. The unpredictable followed by the semicolon signals a reader that there are two very closely related sentences, perhaps one growing out from information in the first. All right, here's another example. This is also correct. You can use a period in place of the semicolon. The weather is unpredictable, period. Today it snowed, rained, and then snowed again. So either way, using the semicolon or using the period is perfectly correct. However, this example is incorrect. The weather is unpredictable. Here's a comma. Today it snowed, rained, and then snowed again. It needs to be either the semicolon or the period. Otherwise, you have a run-on sentence. It becomes confusing. All right, moving on. Another example is to use the semicolon to link independent clauses before words called conjunctive adverbs, such as therefore, however, indeed, or transitional expressions, those little words that help your reader go from one idea to the next, such as in fact, in addition, and for example. Just remember, it has to be when you're linking independent clauses, not just inserting the words into one sentence. Here's an example. In the lab, safety is always a concern. Therefore, there's your conjunctive adverb. Therefore, procedures must be maintained. The one sentence leading out from the information in the first one, the semicolon here, followed by a comma. All right, here's another example. Semicolons can create subtle differences in our writing. However, they must be used correctly. There's some more information about what's provided in the first independent clause. So there's another use for the semicolon. It's incorrect to use a comma, again, in place of the semicolon. Semicolons can create subtle differences in our writing. However, they must be used correctly. You have two independent clauses. The word however as a transition needs the semicolon before it. All right, moving on. Here's another use. To link two independent clauses, again with the independent clauses, joined by a coordinating conjunction, and, but, or, nor, for, so, yet, when a comma is already existing in one or both of the independent clauses. All right, let's look at an example of that. Instead of driving, we decided to walk. There's one independent clause with the comma existing within the clause. So we made sure to dress appropriately. In order not to be confusing, we have a comma here, and then here's the semicolon. Here's another example. The sunset was spectacular, but, there's your conjunction, but with the light fading quickly, we were unable to photograph the intense colors. So you can see whether the comma occurs in the first independent clause, such as the first example here, or in the second independent clause, as in here. You need the semicolon here to make what you're saying clearer to the reader. It's incorrect just to list, as you're doing here with the commas. It becomes confusing. The sunset was spectacular, but the light was fading quickly. We're unable to photograph the intense colors. We don't know what's happening when, or how these ideas are especially connected. Okay, let's look at another use. To separate items in a series that already contain other punctuation. Now that's kind of like the one that we just looked at. Here's an example. The plane lands at Syracuse, New York, semicolon, Chicago, Illinois, semicolon, and Denver, Colorado. You know that you would use a comma to separate city from state. And since there's already a comma there, we need something else that separates the state from a city in another state. So that's another use for the semicolon. Here's another example. Many forms of punctuation can enhance communication by revealing the connection between ideas, such as using semicolons, creating a style like using dashes, or expressing emotion through the use of end marks. All right, again, a long sentence, but containing commas in some of the independent clauses, so necessitating the use of the semicolons to chunk out that information, divide it up one from the other so it's clearer, the meaning is clear, and we can understand what you're trying to get across. Here's an example that's incorrect. It shows the same sentence as before, but just uses commas all over the place. Many forms of punctuation can enhance communication by revealing the connection between ideas, such as using semicolons, creating a style like using dashes, or expressing emotion through the use of end marks. So we're not too sure what goes with what here, or if each of these things is something separate. All right, so another way to use the semicolon correctly. Here's a quick review now of the 4 uses of a semicolon. You use them with independent clauses to connect 2 related ideas. You use them before the conjunctive adverbs. You use them before coordinating conjunctions when commas already occur. Used to separate items in a series containing other punctuation. Don't use semicolons in place of commas or other punctuation. They have very specific uses. The lesson is over, which is good because I am out of examples. Now that's using the comma correctly. It's incorrect to say the lesson is over, semicolon, which is good because I'm out of examples. That's not using the semicolon in place of a comma. Please remember, you only use the semicolon to connect 2 independent clauses, 2 sentences, each of which could stand alone. Now you know everything there is to know about semicolons, and you should be able to use them to improve your writing. That's all for now. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.